What up, everybody? Good morning and happy playoff baseball Tuesday. DK show up on the air on your radio dials 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. Got the video streams up and rolling on Facebook and YouTube. Also, download that app, take it on the go. Smart devices is also out there as well. But happy Tuesday, everybody. Appreciate you making us a part of your start. If you're already up and at it here this morning, what do we got on a good old game plan for us? Well, it is day one, game one of Brewers versus Mets. We know who the Brewers will face in the game one of their wild card series after the Mets and Braves split yesterday. So Mets coming back to Milwaukee to take on the Crew. Freddie Peralta, no surprise, officially announced as the game one starter for the Crew tonight. Severino is going to get the start for the Mets. First pitch around 4:32, about 4:32, shortly after 4:30 over there. So, Brewers fans, predictions. What are your thoughts? What are your keys to victory? All that good stuff. Start to hit me up with some texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Or comment on the video streams. Can also hit us up with on the social media pages over there too. So what you got? How do you see this one playing out for the Crew? All right, predictions. And we'll talk some more playoff baseball as well because we've got other games in action starting today. Wild card round going on over there. Astros going to be taking on the Tigers. That's going to be your first game today at 1:30. The Royals taking on the Orioles. That's going to be at 3. Brewers, Mets shortly after 4:30, and then the nightcap Braves after winning the second game yesterday, having to travel to the West Coast to take on the Padres. Give me your not only just your Brewers predictions, but give me some World Series picks. All right, now that the playoffs are finally here, give me your World Series matchup and your World Series winner. All right. So not only do I want your Brewers picks, but I want, or maybe that is your Brewer, maybe that is your World Series pick. You're going with the Brewers in there. Maybe you're going with the Euchre series, huh? Brewers versus Cleveland. Be kind of fun over there too. So, but we'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. Speaking of baseball, too, sad news yesterday, last night. If you were watching maybe some of the football games or whatever, probably saw, heard the news of Pete Rose passing away at the age of 83, the all-time hits leader in Major League Baseball. It was reported and confirmed last night that he had passed away at the age of 83. So I threw it up on our Facebook group page over there, but so obviously I'm a little too young to remember Rose's playing career and such. Obviously know about it from reading and watching old stuff and obviously listening to stories and such. But for those of you who were around or can remember, I should say, might be the best way to put it. Was Pete Rose, one of your favorite players? Because I feel like, and I was mostly looking on Facebook and Twitter and seeing a lot of people, friends of mine too, talking about how he was one of their favorite players and all that good stuff. But I'm genuinely curious to hear from you. Where was Pete Rose kind of like on your list of favorite players? Was he one of your favorite players? Because of the way he played the game. Uh, obviously we've got some of those clips of him diving in, sliding in, and such. Right? We got that going on in our minds and our memory banks right now too. And of course, the question that's going to be floated out all across there, all over the board, and every show is going to be the world or the Hall of Fame topic, right? That's going to be out there again. So, should he be in the Hall of Fame? What side of the aisle are you on with that? So, But we'll talk a little Pete Rose coming up a little bit later on. Also, too, yesterday morning, Dikembe Mutombo passing away. Good old Hall of Fame basketball player. Obviously known for his defense, the finger waving after blocking some shots and such, passing away at the age of 58 due to brain cancer. But yeah, couple of big time and some of the best players in their respective sports passing away yesterday. So sad day yesterday too, no doubt about it. We'll talk some Badgers with Mr. RJ Cardinal coming up in a couple hours from now. He was at the game over at USC, so we'll get his thoughts on what he saw. Badgers jumped out to that lead, but couldn't hold on to it, getting outscored 28-0 in the second half. So we'll talk to RJ his thoughts on that, and then kind of looking at the rest of the schedule here for this Badger football team. So we'll talk some Badgers with Mr. RJ coming up at about 8:20 here this morning. It is also an Analyze This Tuesday. So kind of with the first quarter of the football season in the books, believe it or not now, after the last two games from last night. Math isn't quite equal, but we're calling it the end of the first quarter of the season. You know what we like to do? We like to hand out some grades, kind of fill out your report cards and such. So when it comes to the Packers, what grades would you give, let's say, the offense, the defense, special teams? We'll just leave it at that because you can include players and coaches on this. If you want to, I'll leave it up to you. If you want to kind of narrow it down a little bit more too, if you want to give a grade to Matt LaFleur or Jeff Hafley, Rich Bisaccia, whoever, go ahead and do that too. But if you just want to keep it, if you want to combine the coaches with the offense, combine the coaches and the players with the offense, defense, et cetera, and make it a little bit more simpler that way, that's fine too. But what grades would you kind of give from the first quarter of this season? And then in a bigger picture, in a bigger sense, across the NFL, who is like, I don't really want to ask like the biggest surprise out there because, I mean, I'm sure we'll throw Vikings in there and, we'll throw maybe a couple teams, but I'm trying to think of some, no, we'll just keep it like that. We'll just keep it like that. Who maybe is the biggest shocker of you? Maybe that's, and you can positive and negative. So biggest shocker in terms of how well they are, or maybe biggest disappointment. We'll just kind of leave it at that because I gotta throw the Commanders into this. I think what they're doing to begin their season is the kind of fun to watch. And maybe it's maybe what's the best feel good team so far in the first 4 weeks of the season? Is it the Commanders? Is it somebody else that you'd throw out there? So we'll talk some football and such. But Matt LaFleur chatted a little bit with the media yesterday. I don't know if it's necessarily like conflicting reports out there, but Ian Rappaport said that Christian Watson had a high ankle sprain, probably a candidate for IR, going to miss a few weeks. But Matt LaFleur yesterday says that Christian Watson will be out at least a week or so. So I mean, kind of gives the impression too that maybe it wasn't as bad as like a high ankle sprain where it would land him in IR. But I guess we'll kind of wait and see what the approach is here and such. So, but Matt Schneidman, I thought had a good comment yesterday. He said he asked Matt LaFleur after the game about the split between Josh Jacobs because Josh Jacobs' topic yesterday was pretty big. A lot of people chimed in and texted us and kind of talked about him not playing a whole lot. But this was kind of a good look back at Matt Schneidman. He tweeted out, asked Matt LaFleur yesterday, this would have been Sunday, about the split between Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson. But Jacobs actually played 61% of the snaps, and Wilson played 39. As Matt said, I think I was fooled by Jacobs only getting 13 touches which happened because Packers had to pass more with such a big deficit. So it's a good point. I mean, it's a 60-40 split. Maybe some fans still wanted a bigger split, like a 70-30, 80-20, whatever the case may be. But I'll be honest, I think I was kind of fooled in the same way there. It seemed like Jacobs wasn't on the field as much, but 61% of snaps. Now, if you say maybe he should have been involved a little bit more in the passing game instead of getting 4 catches or involved in other ways, okay, then that's something we can kind of take a look at there too. But thought that was like, oh yeah, okay, when you put it that way, wasn't maybe as bad as we thought out there. So that is also a ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. It's a Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what's grinding your gears? You can text us at 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. I'll tell you right now, what's grinding my gears is I don't know why I do this. It's like once every few months, completely spilled, knocked over my coffee all over the keyboard, all over the board, all over my pants, all over my Robin Yount jersey, all over the floor. It's a mess. So that's grinding my gears. That's the start I'm having right now on this Tuesday. So, but let's get things going here, shall we? Let's get the lead off here. Let's talk some Brewers. Brewers getting set to open up their playoff run, taking on the New York Mets, the team that they just faced to wrap up their regular season. Sal Frelick worked out yesterday and kind of following along online. Uh, apparently he said he's good to go, but now it's going to be pretty much up to the team. It sounds like so. I don't know. Maybe we'll get Sal Frelick on the roster today. We'll find out who's on that playoff roster and what it looks like and such. See if there's any surprises or see if Sal is on there or not. But what are your predictions for this series against the Mets? And then what are your World Series predictions for Major League Baseball? Okay, so I want to talk some Brewers. And if you got any thoughts on Pete Rose, the question I kind of threw out there too. Was he one of your favorite players? For those of you who can remember watching him play, because I don't know, it seemed like a lot of people, at least on my social media feed, kind of talking about how or sharing how he was one of their favorite players as a kid growing up or watching and such. So, but let's talk a little Pete Rose coming up in this hour too, shall we? So, first break here, and then we'll get things rolling here this morning. Brewers getting set for their playoff run tonight. I want to hear from you, Brewers fans. Okay, your predictions, your thoughts. Do you think the Brewers have a little bit of a deep run in them? Let's talk about it. You may think it's impossible to save money with your grocery bill and at the pump all at the same time, but with Hy-Vee, it's not. Take advantage of the great deals and savings at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire while also earning money at the gas pump with Hy-Vee perks. And don't forget, Hy-Vee in Eau Claire is your tailgating headquarters. Whether you're looking for food, beverages, or apparel to represent your team, including your high school, Hy-Vee in Eau Claire has you covered. Tailgates this tailgating season with Hy-Vee. All right. What are your keys to victory, your key matchups, your predictions for the Brewers taking on the Mets game 1 of this series? What do you got here? G-Man, of course, is picking the Brewers to win this, and he's picking the Brewers to beat the Yankees in the World Series. So I wouldn't expect anything less from you, G-Man. So G-Man actually saying today's the day. Now the Crew will play small ball in the series, and when Game 1 is over, the Brewers win and the Crew are up 1-0. Go Brewers, and Fastball Freddy will get the win. Okay. P.S. The Brewers will win World Series this year against the Yankees, and he grades the Packers B. Go Pack Go. All right, so there's G-Man's prediction. What's your prediction? Hit me up with a text, 715-830-1912. If you're looking at some of the national media picks, or if you're looking at, like the big old websites of the mothership and ESPN, or the mothership is ESPN, CBS Sports, and all that. CBS Sports seems to be a little bit more 50-50 in their picks between Brewers and Mets. If you go to the mothership, though, with all their writings, they had looks like 27 total people voting. 23 of the 27 picked the Brewers in this thing, but it says the Mets are overwhelming underdog in our voters' eyes. How do you think they pull off the upset? Sure, the Mets will be exhausted after their Milwaukee travel schedule over the past 3 days, not to mention the playoff celebration on Monday. But if momentum means anything, then Francisco Lindor's game-winning home run to clinch a spot in October gave the Mets all the additional energy they'll need for the series. And while the Brewers have the advantage in their bullpen, they will still have to set their pen up for success to begin with. And Milwaukee's starting pitching doesn't generate the swing and miss you like to see from a playoff rotation. All right, so what would be your biggest concern heading into the postseason for the Brewers, or maybe your biggest question mark for this Brewers team as they get into the postseason? Is it the starting pitching? That if you kind of, again, I don't know if anybody else was like me earlier this morning. I'm looking up like write-ups. MLB.com's got a bunch of, each a storyline for every team, or blah blah blah, and a lot of it seems to center around the starting pitching for the Brewers. So, would you agree that for the Brewers, their biggest concern or the biggest question mark they have heading into this series is their starting pitching, or are you going to go a different route? Maybe are you going to go, can the offense put up enough runs to help support their pitching staff? Now, we know the Brewers and Mets obviously just got done playing each other, right? We know that. Brewers took the first 2 of this series against the Mets, losing that final one on Sunday there. But the other kind of series, we got to go back to like opening day on there. That's when Freddie Peralta, pitched against the Mets opening day, picked up a win there too. Severino pitched the second game of that series back on March 30th. But I mean, that's quite the gap in between these two. So, I mean, you kind of have to look at this previous series maybe to see how both teams are a little bit more kind of what they are at this point in time. But I feel like tonight is a big night for Freddie Peralta. I feel like tonight it could be a signature moment for Peralta. For a season where he had maybe some ups and downs, or maybe he didn't play up to the level that we all kind of set for him because, we begin the season. All right, we know Corbin Burns is trade. Brandon Woodruff ain't pitching. So by process of elimination, it's Freddie Peralta as the starter or as the ace. And we put him up on that high pedestal. We put him up with high expectations, right? And maybe he didn't hit those expectations on a consistent level that we would expect from an ace. And maybe for some fans, it's a little disappointing for his season. But when you look at his numbers overall for Freddie Peralta here, got his 200 Ks again, right? He picked up his 200 Ks in that final strikeout against Brian Reynolds in the game against Pittsburgh. But he finished 11-9 with a 3.68 ERA in 32 games, 173, nearly 174 innings pitched. And if we look at his last couple games here in September, just to kind of see with how he's pitching leading into this postseason, I think he's been pitching pretty darn solid. You go back to the 13th against Arizona, and a team at that point fighting for their playoff lives. But he went 5 innings, 1 earned run. Followed that up with the Phillies on the 18th, 5 innings, gave up 1 earned run on a home run. 9 strikeouts in that game. And then, of course, the Pittsburgh game, he actually picked up the loss, but he went 5 1/3, 2 earned runs. So, I mean, when you look at these last 3 games, 1 earned run, 1 earned run, 2 earned runs, if you get that type of line from Freddie, say through 5, 6 innings, I think you take that any day of the week and you run with that. But I think this is a moment for Freddie Peralta to go out there and really establish himself as perhaps the ace of the staff for the next couple of years, but maybe to kind of solidify himself as back to one of the better pitchers in all of baseball. It was just a couple of years ago he was an all-star. And I know one game probably isn't going to change the whole narrative, but I think we talk about it in sports a lot, that moment, that one game, that game for a player to kind of rise to the challenge, or for a team to rise to the challenge. And for Freddie Peralta, he's got that chance tonight. He's pitched for his postseason career. He's pitched in 4 postseason games. He started 2 of those. 13 innings total, 17 strikeouts, a 3.46 ERA, is 0-1 in his postseason career. But I want to see a dominant Freddie Peralta tonight. I want to see a Freddie Peralta that goes 6 innings, maybe that 1 earned run will ideally be 0, but I want this guy to be effective, and I want to see the strikeouts up there. So one thing with Freddie, he racks up a lot of pitches without going too deep into games. So I want to see that dominant, that lights out Freddie, but at the same time, if he's going to be a guy that's only going to go through 5 innings, getting into the 6th there, I want to see this offense give him some run support early. I want to see this offense jump out to an early lead and maybe take a little bit of that pressure off the bullpen. High leverage situation, because I think when you look at the bullpen, you got guys coming out of the bullpen too that don't have a ton of playoff experience, right? I mean, we're all human. Sure, there's going to be butterflies kind of in the stomachs for a lot of those guys, even the guys who have been in the playoffs before. But there's going to be some butterflies over there. And I think when you get to, if it's a close game and it's a tight game and you got to go to your bullpen early, might be a little nerve-wracking at that point. But I want to see Freddie Peralta go out there, be dominant, be lights out. Be that Freddie that we saw in his last couple starts, bare minimum. You do that, this team's going to be in position to win, but this offense cannot go cold. This offense cannot go through one of its stretches where they're only going to put up a run or two, a couple of runs here. I think Willy Adames offensively, Willy Adames has got to be that guy that leads this team. that is, let's see if Willie Adames can maybe earn himself a little bit more money in this postseason, whether it's with the Brewers, which I think a lot of us would like to see, or if it's with somebody else. But I want to see a guy like Willie Adames kind of carry this team from an offensive side where, if he's up at the plate, he's just in a zone right now. Whether it's the home run ball or just coming up with big hits at the plate, I want Willie Adames. We talk about Freddie Peralta. This is a moment for him. This is a chance for him to really kind of make a name for himself. I think Willie Adames now, if Willie Adames can do that on the offensive side here, especially in the middle of that lineup there, boy, that'd be something. But I'm also excited to see Jackson Chourio in the spotlight too. I mean, Jackson Chourio, this kid, you know, first year, rookie year, started off maybe a little bit slow, but he gives the impression. First of all, you can instantly tell Jackson Cheerios out there. I mean, with this big old smile on his face, and he's running around. I think every time the camera's on him, he's smiling about something, whether it's just a routine fly ball or maybe he's taking a walk or a single or something like that. Dude's got a smile on his face. Here we go now. We're in October and it's playoff baseball. This is when legends are made in the postseason here. So for all the high expectations that we had for Jackson Chourio at the beginning of the year for his career, not necessarily for this year, but for his career, now he's got a chance in the postseason to really kind of maybe notch a little bit more on his belt there. Are we putting a lot of pressure on him? Yeah, probably for a youngster at 20 years old here. But this is an opportunity for him to continue that his start to his really, really, really impressive career. And he's a guy that I'm probably the most excited to see in this postseason run here because I want to see how this youngster does under the spotlight, under the national spotlight now in October. With almost kind of a do or die type of mentality. I mean, you lose tonight, you're on the brink of elimination already, for crying out loud. And I overall, I want to see this top half of this offensive lineup just be in a zone. Whether Bryce Terang, uh, Chourio, Willie, Contreras. If it's Garrett Mitchell in that top half or Rhys Hoskins. Rhys Hoskins has a ton of playoff experience, and he's had a lot of good moments in the postseason. Are those going to come back and help lead the Brewers here? So there's a lot of storylines to kind of follow with this Brewers team. In one of the write-ups on MLB.com, when it talked about why the Brewers would win and such, or a reason why the Brewers would win, and they talked a lot about the bullpen and such over there too. Let me see if I can bring it up here in time here. Yeah. So for the Brewers, they're playing with house money here. Nobody predicted the Brewers to be here without Corbin Burnes and Brandon Woodruff after missing NL reliever of the year Devin Williams for the first 4 months of the season, and NL batting average leader Christian Yelich for the last 2, and fielding a lineup with 6 first or second year players, including Jackson Chourio. Yet Milwaukee ranked 6th in MLB in runs per game, led the NL in bullpen ERA, finished with 93 wins, and took the NL Central again. If they can do that, Pat Murphy said, why can't they just keep going? They have been bypassing all the odds and the expectations for this team all season long. Why can't they do it again in the postseason? Why can't they do it again in the postseason? So when we take a look at the matchups for the whole season, for the whole baseball season, the whole bracket here, let's make some picks, shall we? Shall we do some picks here? So I'm gonna go. Well, we'll start it off on the American League side of things. Okay, and I want you to hit me up too with your predictions. Okay, but let's start off with the American League side. Got Tigers and the Astros. Tigers probably the hottest team entering the postseason. I mean that remarkable run to get into the postseason. I think the biggest thing now for the Tigers is going to be, is there a little bit of a letdown? Like, oh man, we finally made, we made it. We can't believe we made it after this run, and you know, winning a ton of games. Is there that kind of like, okay, we take a deep breath, and then it's like, we still got to play. You know, just because we made it doesn't mean anything. We still got to play. That to me is going to be the key in this series. Is there a little bit of that letdown from the Tigers? Do they take that like breath and be like, okay, we made it? No, you still got to play though, guys. Got to still ride that momentum. That being said, I'm picking the Tigers. I'm picking the Tigers to upset the Astros. I'm a big believer in momentum. If you can channel that momentum and use it the proper way. Royals, Baltimore. Give me Baltimore. So that means the Yanks would play the Tigers. Baltimore would go and play Cleveland. Don't matter. I'm going to go Cleveland versus the Yanks in the ALCS, the American League Championship Series. I'm going to leave it there for a second because then I'm going to go to the NL. Brewers beat the Mets. Brewers are going to beat the Mets. Then we got Atlanta versus Padres. Padres are going to defeat Atlanta, which sets up the Dodgers versus the Padres. I'm going to go with the Dodgers to win that one. Phillies, Brewers. Man, I mean, if I'm taking my heart out of the equation, it's the Phillies. But I said I was always going to pick with my heart. Screw it. Why not? No. I think the Phillies win, but God, the series I want is the Brewers versus the Guardians. That's the series I want. I want Milwaukee versus Cleveland. If I get that World Series, I'm happy as a clam, especially with the Brewers hopefully winning that. That's what I want to see. The one I think we're going to get, boy, I'm going to go off on a ledge on this one. Dodgers, Yankees. And then everybody's going to go goo goo gaga and freak out. And I get it. Like, take the Brewers out of the equation. My favorite team in that. Seeing Ohtani and Judge on a World Series stage, yeah, that would be pretty cool. It's just it's always got to be Dodgers and Yankees. And even though it's never happened, it just feels like it's happened a lot. And I think it's because they've been picked how many times over the years to go or face each other in the postseason. But I mean, I'd be kidding and I'd be lying to myself if I said, okay, World Series that features Ohtani and Judge. Yeah, that's going to draw some eyes, and yeah, I'm gonna watch that too. There's no question I'm going to watch that. But the series I want Cleveland and I want Milwaukee. I want the Euchre series. I want the Bob Uecker series, and I want the Brewers to win it in 7 games because why not add some drama to it? Why not add a little bit of drama to that, baby? So that's where I'm at. My heart wants Brewers Guardians, Brewers over the Guardians. My head is saying Dodgers over the Yankees in the World Series. But what do you got? All right, hit me up with your baseball predictions, your baseball playoff predictions. Let's take a quick break. What are your keys to victory, though? What are you going to be paying attention? What's your biggest concern for this Brewers team as they head into the postseason? Or on the flip side, what are you most confident in with the Brewers? What's maybe the area that you are the most confident in when it comes to this team? I think for me, my biggest concern is probably a little bit of the cold spell from the offense. I think for me, it's, are they going to go through a little bit of cold spell? I understand some concern about the starting pitching in that, but I also feel like the Brewers have so many options, whether it's their bullpen, they got guys that can go a couple innings, that they can be a little bit creative with their pitchers, that they can kind of combat that, maybe kind of keep teams on edge. So I guess maybe the area that I'm most confident is probably going to be bullpen, I guess. What about you? All right, let me know. Hit me up with the text, 715-830-1912. We'll take a quick break here. Then we'll finish up the first hour. Pete Rose thoughts, send those on over too. We'll see one of for those of you who remember watching him play and such, One of your favorite players to watch? Should he be in the Hall of Fame? What do you got? Hit me up. The calendar is quickly flipping its pages and days are flying by, and before you know it, those holidays will be here. Now you're probably thinking, dude, it's way too early for me to start thinking about menus for meals and what gifts to buy, even though we're getting those toy catalogs in the mail right now if you got kiddos at home. That's not where I'm going with this, though. I'm thinking about, hey, when you have all your family members and friends visiting your home or even spending a few days with you, you want to make an impression on them, especially if it's the in-laws. Some of you know what I mean. So why not make that lasting impression by updating the floor in your home? There's just something about a new carpet or new vinyl planks that make a home stand out from the rest. And chances are there's probably a space in your home right now where it's been forever or maybe even never where that floor has been replaced. So what's step one? Easy. Visit Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. I've used Carpet City Flooring Center for a few projects in my home and numerous times for numerous times. And each time they've made the process simple from help in selecting the floor that would look the best and function the best to the floor that fits right in my budget. And they can do the same for you because that's the type of team they have at Carpet City Flooring Center. So give them a visit today, 3109 East Hamilton Avenue in Eau Claire. Doug with the text saying hopefully a lot of base runners because we had 8 stolen bases and the 2 wins at the end of the year. A couple more texts here. This is from Eric saying key to victory for me for the Brewers is keeping the bats going like they did in the first couple games of the series against the Mets, and the pitching up to par and not having one of those games where it seems like they're just throwing gas up there. Another text here. This is from, well, I don't have a name on this one, but texter's picking the Brewers to win the series in 2 games. I think the fact that the Mets had to do a lot of traveling and to play some high leverage games and a little celebration that they lose tonight and ultimately lose tomorrow as well. A couple more predictions on our texting line here. This one is from Ben. Ben is picking the Brewers in 3 World Series picks. He's going with Phillies and the Guardians, with the Phillies beating the Guardians. Another text here with some predictions. This one's from Chris. Chris is picking the Brewers to advance to the NLCS, where they will lose to the Dodgers. And then the Dodgers defeat the Yankees in the World Series. A couple more World Series picks here. This one is from we'll go with Richard first. Richard is saying he thinks the Brewers will advance to the NLCS, but he also has them losing to the Dodgers. Dodgers beating the Guardians in the World Series. Another World Series pick here. Don't have a name, but they are going to go with the Astros losing to the Phillies. Okay. Keep these coming. We'll get back to some more of them. I know I got a couple more I got to get to here with your predictions, but I want to get to a couple of Brewers texts here. This one is from Mike. Mike is saying my biggest concern for the Brewers heading into this series is what's going on with my headphones. It's kind of cutting in and out here, so apologize if I sound a little weird here. But this his biggest concern heading into the series with the Brewers is the offense. Are they going to go cold, or are they going to be able to put up runs to help support their starting pitching? The area that I'm most confident in is the bullpen. Another texter saying my biggest concern is with the youngsters. Will the spotlight be too bright for them? All talk all year has been how young this team has been and exceeding expectations. But now that the spotlight is on them, will they rise to that challenge? I know some of them got some playing time last year, but this year they've all played a lot better and a little bit more pressure on them this year. Another prediction here from Kevin. Kevin for the Brewers is, or I should say, a concern and confident pick. Kevin is saying I'm concerned about the starting pitching, even concerned a little bit with Freddie Peralta, and then what the plan is going to be after him. I'm most confident in the bullpen. So it looks like everybody's kind of going with the bullpen right now at this point in time. C-Bomb saying I'm taking the Brewers over the Mets for the World Series. He's got Phillies and Yankees. I want to see Willie earn himself the payday he deserves in the postseason. So C-Bomb throwing out the question, what changes will be made if the Brewers get knocked out by the Mets? I mean, I don't think anybody's getting fired. If that's kind of what you're going to. Willie won't be back next year. So, I mean, I guess change it. I think a lot's going to depend on how they would lose this series. I don't want to cop out of the answer or anything, but I think a lot's going to depend on like how they would lose this series to kind of answer that question. I mean, if they're scoring a bunch of runs, but it's obvious that the pitching was the issue, like starting pitching, then you could say, okay, we got to go to the offseason and address some of our starters, get some more depth at that starting pitching position. We got Robert Gasser coming back next year. Brandon Woodruff is supposed to come back, but he's still kind of an unknown, right? I mean, you don't want to necessarily maybe put all your eggs in one basket with Brandon Woodruff. Now, if the pitching performs really well, but it's the offense, then you could probably say, okay, we need some more bats. So I guess, again, I don't want to cop out C-Bomb. I think maybe to best answer that question would be, how do they lose if that were to happen, right? Pat Murphy ain't getting fired. Nobody's getting fired. I can't imagine that would happen. But I guess never say never, right? When it comes to the sports world. So a couple texts here too about Pete Rose. This was a texter a little bit earlier. Jim said Pete Rose was one of my favorite players growing up to watch as a kid because I just really liked how he went about playing the game, always 100 miles per hour, always giving it his all. And then another texter a little bit earlier said about Pete Rose. Pete Rose was my dad's favorite player. So I got to watch some highlights with him and get to know a little bit about him. My dad said he always appreciated the way he played the game, always played it at a high level. I think that was supposed to say that. So, okay. Keep your thoughts coming too. I shouldn't say a couple, quite a few of you saying, yes, that's Pete should be in the Hall of Fame. So, all righty. We'll finish up this first hour with Morgs. How you doing?
How's things? You guys survived Warrens?
Yeah.
Was busy? I heard.
Oh, yeah.
Big crowds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So with the Pete Rose thing, I was just curious. This is kind of morbid, but not because it's inevitable. What players are going to hit you hard in the fields when we lose them? Because obviously Pete Rose was older, but a legacy in baseball and a lot of people's favorite players. Or like the texting line says, was my dad's favorite player. So you grew up. I know like Reggie was a hard hit for my family. I grew up watching Reggie White play with my dad, and that was a hard loss.
Yeah.
So what athletes do you see kind of really being tough losses for you?
I don't know if it'd be a tough loss in terms of just being fans of them, but it almost reminded me of my own mortality, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, oh crap, if they're gone, that means
like someone in your
close.
age group, like Favre.
Yeah.
Who just announced he had Parkinson's. So it's like, yeah. When you with people from your era,
Shaq.
Yeah. Everybody that was like there. Yeah.
That type of era, 90s.
And I'm talking, kind of non-accident. Like obviously Kobe was a tragedy and that happened suddenly.
Yep.
But this kind of aging
kind of like when Bart Starr,
phase.
passed away, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
So that's going to be a hard one for you. What do you think about the Pete Rose thing? You think Hall of Fame? Yes.
I think he should.
Yeah.
It's to me. This is going to open up a can of worms, but whatever.
Open it up.
So
gambling. Roll the dice. Well, as Pete would have done.
It's gambling, but since we're into the world now where you can gamble, and I get players can't do it, managers can't do it, and all that sort of stuff. But I think we're starting to get to that point where, like, even now in college sports, Reggie Bush can get his Heisman back, for violations back then, but now it wouldn't count as violations.
Right.
We got to continue to have that conversation, I think, about Pete Rose.
Well, and I think that that's valid in 2 points. I don't think it really opens a can of worms at all, because if you're doing what's natural, you're following the evolution of the sport. Times change. That's inevitable. I mean, change is the only constant. And if you're doing that and you're rolling along with the changes, at some point, it's going to seem pretty antiquated that they're not in for X, Y, and Z reasons, or the trophy gets taken away for things that aren't relevant anymore, wouldn't apply.
Right.
Then you have to have the conversation about, well, what's fair, what's current, what best reflects this phase that we're in, and kind of work with it in that terms.
Right. Yeah, no, it's and correct me if I'm wrong. I think he only bet when he was a manager, not a player, so he'd go in as a player.
That's what
So
I think.
you know,
Well, and
so
now look at even we're dealing with like present day situations that type that a little bit with Otani's manager that had
yeah,
all that money tied. I mean, like this is looking like nothing right now with Pete Rose. And
right,
why wouldn't he be in there with the all time hit lead and all that stuff?
yep,
Doesn't have much to do. It feels a little bit like, aren't we past that at
hmm
this point,
I think so.
kind
I
of
do.
thing?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think it'll be happening anytime soon, though.
No.
No,
Well, no,
probably not till the next
we
commissioner.
gotta
So
fight about it for a few years until we do anything.
yeah,
That's the way it goes,
yep,
right?
exactly. All right, thanks, Morgs.
Anytime.
1 hour in, we got a couple more to go here. We'll get back to your Brewers predictions as they start the postseason tonight. Keep those coming.
Yay, go Brew Crew.
We'll be back after these news updates. Second hour kicks off right now on this playoff Tuesday. The Brewers getting set to start hopefully a long playoff run here for the Crew. You can listen to the game right here at 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Coverage is going to begin about 3:55 today. 3:55. First pitch around 4:30, 4:32. So tune in, listen to another playoff version of Euchre, right? Hopefully we got quite a few games with Euchre on the call for this playoff run here. What are your Brewers predictions? Let us know. Hit us up with the text 715-830-1912. A couple texts to get to here. C-Bomb talk about the Brewers just frustrated with how the team is built. Strong regular season every year. Have ponies, not horses, in the postseason. That maybe brings up the other question here too: is like, what is your what is your expectation for this? Like, how do I want to phrase this? The last couple of years we had these high expectations. Like, okay, great, postseason run. We get to the postseason, but now we want a little bit more, right? We want a deep run. We want to get to the World Series, et cetera, et cetera. Is it still that same mindset this year, even though that maybe they surpass the expectations? You know what I mean? Or, is that still the same expectation, or is it like, you know what? We're playing with house money and whatever happens right now because they weren't supposed to be there. What's your mind thing? Because I've seen both. I've seen both at this point in time. I think once you get there, don't just be happy to be there. Go out there and win some games and have a deep run and try to win that championship. See what I'm also saying. MLB and the Hall of Fame should never mention Pete Rose's name until they do what's right. It is criminal that he's not in the Hall of Fame, especially when they turn a blind eye to Ohtani. Was betting far worse and used a fall guy. Okay, C-Bomb thinks it was Ohtani betting there. Mark, I got to meet Pete Rose at a signing in Las Vegas a few years ago. He was not one of my favorite players growing up, as he was always the bad guy on the other team. A love him or hate him player. Later on, I have learned to appreciate his accomplishments and his style of play. Now I hope I have players on my team with the same gritty attitude on the field. Get serious, baseball. Put Pete in the Hall. A lot of you kind of going with that. Thanks for sharing, and the picture from Mark there too. Thanks for sending that, Mark. That's awesome. That's really cool. And I got to agree with you. I agree with you. So we'll get back to some more of that. Your thoughts on Pete Rose? I'm a little too young to remember his playing days there, but if you remember it, was he one of your favorite? Because I've been seeing a lot of stories about whether it's been people saying he was their favorite player to watch, or maybe it was their dad's favorite player, and that. But if you kind of have something like to share about Pete Rose, send it on over. That was a really cool story from Mark over there. Appreciate that. Also, we'll get back to some more Brewers talk, but get those predictions coming. A lot of you predicting that the Brewers will win this series, but fall to the Phillies in the next round here. So I'll catch up on those coming up here in just a little bit here. We're going to talk some Badgers with RJ Cardinal coming up next hour at about 8:20. He was at the game or at USC, so we'll get his thoughts on what he watched in person and such, and we'll kind of take a look at the rest of the schedule coming up here. Purdue firing their offense coordinator, former Packers backup quarterback Graham Harrell. So that's who the Badgers will be taking on this weekend. We'll preview that game with Mr. Cardinal coming up here in just a little bit. Is it fair to say, I'll throw this out to maybe C-Bomb and Mark, who kind of already talked about it, but it is an ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. So is it fair to say that Pete not in the Hall is your Grind My Gears Tuesday? Is it fair to say that's out there? So, but let me know. Hit me up with the text. So, Aaron is going the opposite way of where the majority is going right now. Said that Pete had his chance to make amends, but blatantly lied to the commissioner. Only person to blame is Pete himself. So, Mark saying yes, that is his Grind My Gears. All right, let the debates continue. Which side of the aisle are you on? Pete in the Hall, Pete not in the Hall. Right now, clear majority saying yes in the Hall. Let's switch gears here for just a little bit. We'll get back to more Brewers talk and Pete Rose talk here in a little bit. Matt LaFleur chatted with the media a little bit yesterday. Kind of talked about recapping the loss and such. I don't think we have a clear picture on Christian Watson's injury. Ian Rappaport reported it was a high ankle sprain and possibly IR. But you hear Matt LaFleur yesterday, and he said probably a week, maybe a little bit more, kind of downplayed it a little bit, kind of gave the impression that it wouldn't be like a 4-week stint there. But, maybe we'll learn a little bit more as the week goes on here. But as we are 1 month, I shouldn't say 1 month, 4 games into the season for the Packers, pretty much the first quarter of the season. How would you, because this is what we like to do, right? We like to hand out report cards after quarters and semesters and such. How would you grade the first quarter of the season for the Packers offense, Packers defense, Packers special teams? If you want to narrow it down, you can grade the coach, you can grade, certain players or what. Or if you just want to encompass it all into those groups, that's fine. But how would you grade the Packers offense, the Packers defense, and the Packers special teams? And through the first quarter of the season, and this could be a league-wide thing, not just Packers, but what has been maybe the biggest shocker, pleasant surprise, good story, team-wise, player-wise, disappointment or such? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of Sam Darnold picks and Vikings, and totally right. Not arguing with that. I'd throw a little shout-out to the Commanders in that one if it were me to, because I think if you're a Commanders fan right now, you're probably feeling pretty excited, pretty darn excited about what you've seen from your team so far this year. I think if I were to hand out some grades, and I already did my grades on the podcast yesterday, on the Man Cave podcast. If you want to check it out, brought to you by our good friends from Toyson Ford and Hy-Vee. Special teams to me is like a D, and the only thing that's saving it from not being an F is Daniel Whelan, because Daniel Whelan to me is showing that he is he's taken a year 2 jump. Last year, he showed off his leg in training camp and such. Maybe it was a little inconsistent in the regular season. But Daniel Whelan this year, with his hang time and with some of that distance on there, that is what's saving this special teams group from getting an F, in my opinion. You can't really assess the return game because they're not kicking it to Keyshawn Nixon. So that's like incomplete. But right now, it's like the whole kicking situation over there. Now, I don't know. Nobody has brought it up yet to us. But I don't know if this is something that Green Bay would be interested in. But Adam Schefter tweeted out yesterday, the NFL concluded its investigation of former Jaguars kicker Brandon McManus and determined there was insufficient evidence to support a finding that a violation of the personal conduct policy occurred, per sources. He will not face any league discipline, and he is free to sign with any team. Now that the league has cleared him, McManus could soon have a new NFL home, per source. Well, could that team be Green Bay? Could that potentially be him? He is he's a veteran. He's 33 years old. You might remember him with Denver. Was he on this? Yeah, he was on the Super Bowl team with Denver, with Peyton Manning and such. So maybe that's, if that name kind of sounds familiar, maybe that's like, oh, that's that guy over there. But you look at his career, he's an 81.4% field goal kicker. His last season, 2023, when he was it Washington, 30 of 37, 81.1%, 11 of 13 from that 40 to 49 yard range. His longest was 56. 56, it looks like. Perfect from extra points, too. 100%. 2023, he was 11th in points. This is the thing, too, is like, so his 81.1% field goal percentage make in 2023 was tied for 30th. I mean, that's how high some of this bar is. But longtime Denver kicker from 2014 to 2022, Um, and then 2023 was actually with Jacksonville. Excuse me, Jacksonville. Did I say Washington? He was there with Washington for a hot minute and then got cut. But 2023 was with Jacksonville, and his best season. I'm trying to look. Probably 15 and 16 when he was 85%. 2019, he was 85% over there too. His longest in his career, 61 2021, but he was with Denver over there. But it's another veteran that's potentially available out there. Don't know if that would be something Green Bay is going to be interested in. I guess we'll find out if he is going to be with a new team soon here. So, but special teams, I probably, I'm going with a D. Defense, I'm at like a C because first of all, the turnovers. I mean, they're knocking it out of the park with turnovers, especially with the interceptions. I mean, blowing away the numbers that they had total from last year. That's a positive. I'm confused on the pass rush right now. You know, you can make a case for the first 3 weeks. It's like the first 2, it's like, okay, contain rush, got mobile quarterbacks. Third week, you did what you're supposed to do, 8 sacks. And then you look at this last game against Minnesota and you're kind of scratching your head a little bit. Where's Rashawn Gary? Where's Kenny Clark right now? I look at that. I look at some of the other play from some of the other players, and it's like kind of average right now when it all factors out there. Offensively, I'm at like a C plus B minus. Maybe that's a little harsh. But I look at, Indy and Tennessee, great offensive game plans. We only got 2 games with Jordan Love, so it's kind of a little bit of an incomplete there, and he's playing hurt now. So that's where I'm kind of offensive line, I think, honestly, is kind of surpassing my expectations here a little bit. I think they're playing a little bit better than what I thought that was going to happen. So maybe about a C plus B minus, just mostly because we only got 2 games of Jordan Love in there. And I'd like to see a little bit more red zone success when it comes to the offense. So that's kind of why I'm at like a C plus right now. Again, could be a little harsh, but that's where I'm at. Another texture. What do we got here for Grind My Gears? C-Bomb, it absolutely grinds my gears that Charlie Hustle isn't in the Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame is based on what they do on the field. Pete has more hits than anyone in history. Who else should even be eligible if he isn't in? Then the Major League and Major League Baseball Hall of Fame are tweeting about Pete. Get out of here. It's a joke that he isn't in, which makes the entire Baseball Hall of Fame a joke. A couple more of you also are saying that, yes, it grinds my gears that Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame. One of you is Matt. Matt saying, my grind my gears Tuesday is easily Pete Rose not being in the Hall of Fame. Should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. Tim also saying, grind my gears Tuesday, Major League Baseball in the Hall of Fame, not allowing Pete Rose in. Couple more predictions before we take a break here. We've got Larry saying Brewers winning this series, but falling in the next series against the Phillies. He's going with the Dodgers over the Yankees in the World Series. All right, take a quick break. We'll talk some more Packers. Talk some more first quarter grades and such. What do you got? What grades are you handing out, teachers, professors? All right, let me know. We'll be back in just a few minutes. school or college athlete or a weekend warrior still playing the game you love, injuries happen. But just know the team at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine are there to help you get back into the game. You're treated with top-of-the-line care, and they are with you and explaining every step of the process with you so that you know and understand what type of care you're receiving. Hey, start feeling better. Visit cvosm.com to get started.
Donald Trump's back, and he's out for control.
I would have every right to go after them.
Complete control.
I will wield that power very aggressively.
And he has a plan to get it.
Detailed plans for exactly what our movement will do.
It's called Project 2025, a 922-page blueprint to make Donald Trump the most powerful president ever. Overhauling the Department of Justice, giving Trump the unchecked power to seek vengeance, eliminating the Department of Education, and defunding K-12 schools, requiring the government to monitor women's pregnancies, and Trump has also proposed severe cuts to Medicare and Social Security. Those are Donald Trump's plans.
Well, revenge does take time, I will say that. And sometimes revenge can be justified.
He'll take control, we'll pay the price.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message. Paid for by Harris for President.
He serves up a whole lot of sports with a whole lot of opinion, which means you've got a whole lot of listening to do. The Dan Casper Show, weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
We got the youth hunt coming up this weekend, so best of luck to all the kiddos who will be heading to the woods and trying to bag that trophy there. Don't forget, if you do have any luck, to send us those photos so we can put them up on the Ultimate, or first of all, put them up on the Tilden Gun photo gallery, but also make sure you add them to our challenge out there, the Ultimate Wisconsin Outdoorsman Quest. See who can be crowned the Ultimate Wisconsin Outdoorsman, youth and adult divisions over there too. But since it is the youth hunt, maybe it's a good reminder that next month, we can already say this, next month is the deer season. So got to get ready. Go visit our good friends at Tilden Gun, Sean and Hunter over there. They'll help you get set up for the November deer gun season. They've got the biggest and best variety, best prices in the Chippewa Valley. They'll also help you find that deer rifle that you're looking for to help you succeed in the outdoors. Do you have a specific model and brand in mind? Well, with the awesome customer service that you get from Sean and Hunter, they will help you find just what you're looking for. They're not going to be a pushy salesperson and try to convince you to buy something you don't want. Stop by their shop, 12427 98th Avenue in Chippewa Falls, or check them out online, tildengun.com. A couple texts here quick. Mark saying we have lots of bad actors in the hall. Try reading a biography about the life of Ty Cobb, for example. Yeah, Ty Cobb was one mean SOB. Mike text Pete Rose and the Big Red Machine are the best of baseball in my childhood. I love Charlie Hustle. When I was a kid playing softball in the beer leagues, I would always Pete Rose into home. That's what we would call sliding head first. I have numerous autographs. I'm going to wear my Pete Rose jersey tomorrow when I go to the Brewers game, if I can get tickets, or just a tailgate. I have many of his autographs. I made a pledge to myself that I would not go to the Hall of Fame until he gets in. Makes no sense that the greatest hitter of all time is not in the Hall of Fame. So, all right, I like it. Keep those coming, all right? And keep your Brewers predictions coming here. We're going to switch gears here a little bit and talk a little Packers. First quarter of the season is in the books. We've also been asking if you could be a teacher, if you are a teacher, what grade would you be giving the Packers offense, Packers defense, Packers special teams and such? So we'll ask Joe. Joe, get your report card out and let's get some grades now that the first quarter of the season's in. What would you grade these units for the Pack there? Good morning, sir.
Wow. If route, I will take that at least offensively because, you played two very good football games without Jordan Love. And the games Jordan Love did play against Philadelphia and against Minnesota, he was inconsistent. And I think, again, a lot of people look at the first quarter of the season really as an extended preseason. I think teams are still getting their footing. I think they're trying to figure things out. Again, with only 3 preseason games and not playing your starters a lot, I'm going to go incomplete on offense because of that. On defense, when I look at this, I think again you've had two not great games defensively, two good games defensively, and again a lot of that matters as far as who you're playing. But I'd probably go C for the defense. Now, I'd love to go incomplete again on that, but I am going to go C. And here's the thing. I like what Hafley's doing from an adjustment standpoint. So it seemed to me at halftime he adjusted, and the Packers defense actually made a lot of stops in that second half, and they only gave up the 3 points. So I think I give Hafley's defense a C. I think special teams, at this point, because of Narveson, because of the misses, I think you have to give him a failing grade. So I think if you were to go overall with this football team right now, and 2-2 is average, and average to me is a C, I think this team overall gets a C after a 2-2 start.
Yeah, the only thing that saved, we had the same kind of grades there, especially defense and such. The only reason I gave the special teams a D was Daniel Whelan's the only thing that's saving them from a failing grade at this point. He was almost,
and that's a great point. That is a great point, Captain. So I might go D- on that because of their punting game. So, but I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it almost felt like Daniel Whelan was kind of the MVP for the most part of that game against Minnesota. I mean, he kind of got the scoring going by hitting a high hang time punt before half and causing a fumble there. So, but yeah, he's been a nice surprise this year for sure.
No doubt. And look, I think the biggest takeaway that you have early on in the season is I think Hafley's getting to know what he actually has on that defensive side of the ball. I think he played it pretty straightforward in that first half with a 4-man rush, not even a lot of stunts or twists or those types of things. Second half, he changed it up a little bit. Obviously, brought Quay Walker in on a blitz. Keyshawn Nixon. I love what I see from Edgerrin Cooper, and I think this guy is forcing himself on the field. And look, I think that game is a little bit different game too with Jair Alexander out there, who got injured late last week. I believe it was Thursday in practice. And so, you're looking at coaches getting to know what they have with their players. And this was a game. Jordan Love looked rusty when you look at the offensive side of the ball. Dontavian Wicks, who hadn't gotten a lot of opportunities in the first 3 games. Once Christian Watson went down, Wicks had to step up, and he had his moments, but they were too few and far between. And so you need guys like Dontavian Wicks to step up. You need some of these other guys to start stepping up a little bit. But again, it's the first quarter of the year, and I look at the next 4 games. You've got the Rams, and you've got the Cardinals, and the Texans, and the Jaguars. Those are 4 games to get things right. There's not a game on that schedule that scares me to say, you know what, if this team goes 3-1 at the bare minimum, I'm feeling pretty good with that Lion game coming to Lambeau on November 3rd. Then, so yeah, it's a lot of and not the kind of like Jair Alexander. You're just questioning things right now from an incomplete standpoint. So yeah, and my biggest takeaway was I thought Jordan Love tried to play hero ball a little bit too much. Mm-hmm. And you just don't need him to do that. And if he continues to be a little bit more of that check down type of player, I think this offense has proven that they can put up points. So it was a rusty game for him. I think it was a needed game for him to get back and start taking a hit and start getting back out of the field and get into a little bit more of a rhythm. And I just see him getting better and better these next few weeks.
The one player I want to talk about getting better here is Rashawn Gary. Pro Football Focus, he's got a 3% pass rush win rate through 4 games. Compare it, last year it was 16, 2022, 17.3. What's going on with Rashawn Gary in the first 4 games? He's been pretty darn quiet so far, Joseph.
And I might have this stat slightly wrong, but I think it's close. He's got 1 sack in his last 13 games. Mm-hmm. So I haven't had a chance to really break down his film, but it looks like to me that he is essentially trying to lean a little bit too much into that bull rush. He hasn't built up that complementary second move. And if you don't have that second move, and if you're the guy, if you're expected to be the man from a pass rush standpoint, and you don't have that complementary room, it's going to be hard. And so I think for him, there's enough tape on him for offensive coordinators, offensive line coaches to say, all right, this is this guy's move. And so he needs to build that counter movement. And I think Hafley also needs to move him around a little bit more and play some games with him with a guy like Cooper off the edge or Nixon off the edge and just free him up a little bit more. So I think it's partially scheme. I also think it's partially Rashawn Gary that he's got to build and develop that secondary move. I still think he's a heck of a player. I still think he has built himself into a powerful edge rusher. It's just now that there's enough tape and enough film, teams are knowing how to block him, and you've got to build, you got to build that change up. If you're a fastball pitcher, you got to throw the change every once in a while to keep hitters honest. And I think that's where Rashawn Gary is.
Kicking wise, obviously that's a big topic of conversation this week for Packers fans. And Adam Schefter yesterday had reported that veteran kicker Brandon McManus is cleared of any legal stuff and available to sign for any team. If you're Green Bay, do you kick the tires on the veteran Brandon McManus, or do you still ride it out with Braden Narvison at this point?
If it were me, I'd be kicking the tires. But LaFleur comes out, and again, sometimes this can be a bad sign and a bad omen when your coach sticks up for you and stands up for you. They talk about Narvison's practice head and his mental state during the week, and that they see it during the week, and he's just got to bring it out during games. And that's a little troublesome because, again, it's a lot easier to be kicking with no pressure really in practice than it is to be kicking with a lot of pressure in a game. And so they're seeing something in practices. They're seeing something during the week that still gives them a reason to believe them. Now, again, all things could switch. And with that news yesterday that Schefter broke, would it surprise me that all of a sudden Green Bay signs him? No, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But it just seems to me that the organization is going out of their way now to say we stand behind Narvison. And again, this Packer team is 2-2 with 2 losses, totaling 7 points and 9 points of missed field goals in those 2 games. And so, is there a correlation? Absolutely. Do I see Green Bay having a little bit of a longer leash? Yes. I mean, they might keep him around, and then as the trade deadline gets a little bit closer, maybe they pick up a veteran. But if this is a team that is going to compete, they got to get this figured out. They got to get it figured out, and they got to realize right away soon if Narvison's the guy or not. But if it were me, I'd kick the tires. But it sounds like LaFleur and that coaching staff is standing behind Narvison.
With the inability to figure out this kicking situation, how much does this reflect on Rich Bisaccia, or is it more of a reflection on the front office at this point?
Well, I think it's a lot on Bisaccia. I think that it seems to me that when it comes to special teams, Goody has relied on Bisaccia to help with some of those picks and some of those choices. I mean, Anders Carlson, it was indirectly because of Bisaccia coaching Daniel Carlson. And so I think a lot of this is on Bisaccia. And look, I like Rich Bisaccia. I like what players say about him, but I would also say that, this is a subpar special teams unit. And if you are going to compete, you need to make plays in special teams. So I think a lot of it is a direct correlation. I think a lot of it is a direct look at Rich Bisaccia. And again, do I like him as a coach? I do. But the bottom line is it's a results-driven game. That unit is not driving results. And I think that might be an area that not during the season, but in the off season, you might have to relook at.
Joe, looking ahead to the game against Los Angeles this Sunday, already no Puka, no Cooper for the Rams. I don't know if they're going to kind of hold out Jair for this game because those 2 guys are not going to play, but you got a desperate Rams team and you're going to California at this point. What's your confidence level like in this game? And what has Green Bay got to do to go the West Coast, rebound from this game against Minnesota, and pick up that W?
Yeah, you said it. Their receiving core for the Rams is decimated. Also, their starting guards, Steve Avila and Jonah Jackson, are also on injury reserve. So this, Sean McVay's not going to feel bad for the Packers' injury report at all. And when you look at the stats, the Rams stats, when you look at Stafford, he's completing almost 69% of his passes. He's completed almost 1,000 yards in 4 games, 7.5 yards a throw. But then you look, only 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he's been sacked 13 times. And then you look at the running game, and Kyren Williams averaging about 3.5. He's their primary ball carrier. This is an offense that is struggling to score points. And so, when you looked at, I think they're averaging around 19 points per game. And so this is a struggling football team, and because of the injuries. And so Green Bay needs to get out early, and they need to put pressure on Stafford. They don't let them hang around. They need to come out and play football at the very beginning. And the other thing is this: they need to start getting better in the red zone. Green Bay needs to score touchdowns. They need to score touchdowns. They can't settle for field goals. And again, you don't even know if it's an automatic with your field goal. So you've got to come out very early with the attitude and the mentality. This is a down football team. This is a struggling football team. And whenever you let a struggling football team stay around a little bit longer than they should, there's always that chance that team comes back. And so you've got to come out early, and you've got to score early, and you've got to get up early. I'll tell you, Green Bay gets up at any point in this game by 2 touchdowns. I think the Rams fold. I think they fold at this point, and I just don't think they have the firepower to go back and forth with a high-scoring battle. Now, that being said, if I was a betting man, I'd take the over. I would take the over of this game because I think there are going to be a lot of points scored. But I just see Green Bay having to have a very fast start. Jordan Love needs to get into a rhythm, and this football team needs to get up early and then step on their throat and end any possible potential comeback that a decimated Rams. This Rams team right now is not a good football team, and so you can't let teams like that hang around. So I think the beginning of the game is going to be key. If Green Bay scores and gets some stops, and this game becomes a 2-touchdown game early, I think it's over.
Joe, one thing I wanted to talk about, because it's been a big gripe from Packers fans, and rightfully so, the first few weeks too, is the penalties. They're a top 5 team in penalties. I was looking it up yesterday. Packers are number 1, though, in the most offensive holding penalties in the league this year. Are you a believer, like a lot of fans say, that that's a reflection on coaching, or do you think that's more so on the player, I guess?
That's a great question. I think it's both. I think Rasheed Walker was not this penalty machine, last year. He wasn't, and he's right now been the guy that's been caught the most, and so his problem is definitely in technique, because he's not moving his feet, he's getting sloppy with his hands hands are outside the shoulder pads. I mean, you can see this at any level, and so is there a certain part of this that is coaching? Yes, but I go back to the coaching that was done with some of these guys as the Packers went on the hot streak last year. So I don't think it's all of a sudden, okay, well, we no longer know how to coach, because that offensive line last half of last year was pretty solid. Really, when you look at how many times Jordan Love was hit in the last half of last year, it was very minimum. And so I think, there's some coaching that needs to be done, but I think this is on the players. These are players who have proven it and are getting sloppy with technique and just need to clean some things up. Is it a concern? The penalties? Absolutely. Are they fixable? Absolutely.
All right, Joe, before I let you go here, prediction time with this game on the road in California. Do the Rams keep it close because they're desperate? Do the Packers maybe vent some frustration after that game against Minnesota? How do you see this one playing out?
I'm seeing this game about a 35-17 ball game. And so I'm going with the Pack with this one. And like I talked about earlier, you asked me my grade, and, they're 2-2, and there's a lot of inconsistencies, and it's really incomplete right now. But I think this is a good football team. And I took more good about how that team played in the second half. When they asked Matt LaFleur, what are you looking for in the second half? He said, we're going to find out what kind of team we have. And look, Green Bay honestly had so many opportunities to come back and win that football game. And so I think they're still a very good football team. I think this is a Rams team that is spiraling a bit. Now that being said, Sean McVay's a good coach. But I see this game being, 35-17, 35-21. And I think that's what it should be. And so I see Green Bay winning this one easily if all of those things we talked about earlier, if Jordan Love gets into a rhythm, if they don't have stupid penalties, and if they don't have a lot of turnovers, all those things that go into every formula for wins and losses. If the Packers don't have that, I think they win this game pretty easily.
How do you I know it's only 4 games in, but really quick, Joe, looking at the rest of this division, you've got Minnesota undefeated. The Lions last night, Jared Goff doesn't even miss a pass, although their defense gave up a bunch of yards, but they're 3-1. Chicago sitting there at 2-2. I know it's only 4 games in, but when you look at how the division's kind of playing out here and seeing from Green Bay, is it maybe a little bit tougher than we kind of thought that it was going to be to make the postseason or win the division this year, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think anybody picked Minnesota, especially with the way their schedule looked at the start. You had the 49ers, you had the Texans, you had the Packers. I don't think anybody expected Sam Darnold to be doing what Sam Darnold does. Now, is he getting away with some things, and can he revert to what Sam Darnold is? Yeah, I think so. But yeah, this is becoming a much tougher division than I think what anyone thought. Now again, Green Bay goes on that run these next 3 or 4 games. They've got the Lions coming to town early November. That's going to be a huge game. If Green Bay is going into that game with the only 2 losses, and the Lions are going in with maybe 1 or 2 losses, that's a huge game, and that's when you really ramp up the season. So is it tougher than we expected as fans? I think so. Is it doable? Is this Packer team still, I think, trending upward? Absolutely.
All right, I like it. Joe, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy the rest of the week here, and hopefully we're talking about a Victory Tuesday next week with you, sir.
All right, my man. Take care.
You too. There you go. You got Joe DeGuano here joining us here for a little bit. Big thanks as always. To answer your question, Big Worm, we did talk about that a little bit earlier in the segment, but Big Worm saying now that McManus is cleared of all charges, there's no reason why the Pack don't get him. What do you and Joe think? We did touch on that a little bit earlier. Yeah, I say kick the tires. Why not? Why not? Why not kick the tires and bring them in? So, all right, let's take a quick break. Your Brewers predictions, keep them coming, peeps. Not only for this game, but for the postseason. Your World Series predictions. What do you got? All right, we'll get back to some more of that coming up here in just a few minutes. Are you in the market to look for your first home? Has your family grown and maybe it's time to find a bigger place to call home? Or maybe you're looking for that parcel of land to build your vacation spot, or maybe just to get some hunting land. Whether you're looking for a home or land to build on, you only need to visit one place to find just what you are looking for. That's Woods and Water Realty. The entire team at Woods and Water Realty is there to help you find that dream home of yours or that escape in the woods that you have been dreaming about. They work with you to find just what you're looking for. Why wait any longer? Visit woodsandwater.com today to get started. Coming up next hour in about, let's say 25-ish minutes, we'll talk some Badger football with Mr. RJ Cardinal back from Cali, where he was at the USC game over there. So we'll chat with RJ for a little bit, get back to some more Brewers talk here too. Also send over your first quarter grades. Send over your first quarter grades for the Packers. Okay, now that the first quarter of the season is in the books here. I know the math doesn't equal out evenly here, but we're calling it the end of the first quarter here. So I saw this. Packers are holding. This is from Bill Huber. The Packers are holding their usual free agent workouts on Tuesday. A pair of veteran running backs, Deion Jackson and Zonovan Knight, will participate, according to NFL insider Aaron Wilson. Okay. No, I have not seen anything yet about kickers. So, in case anybody's kind of wondering about that. So, but keep you posted if anything does happen to pop up here this morning and such. A couple more predictions here for the Brewers for their postseason game. We've got Alex. Alex is saying he's picking the Brewers to win this series, but falling in the series against the Phillies. And then he's got Phillies versus Guardians. Phillies winning the World Series. And then another one here. This is from Dave. Dave is picking the Brewers to win this series, to win the next series, but lose in the NLCS to the Dodgers. The Dodgers defeating the Guardians in the World Series. Another texter, don't have a name, just picking Yankees over the Dodgers in the World Series. So, all right, keep those coming. What is your biggest concern? What are you most confident in for this Brewers team as they begin their postseason run starting tonight? What do you got here? Couple texts to catch up on for that question. I got to go back. Tim said, my biggest concern for the Brewers heading into the postseason is whether the offense is going to provide enough run support for the pitchers. My biggest confidence is Pat Murphy's going to have this team prepared to go. And then we had one more. Don't have a name for the texter, but texter said, my biggest question mark for the Brewers is the starting pitchers. And then after that, I am going with the offense. I'm most confident in bullpen. Okay. Kind of, some typos in there, but I think I got her. But hey, keep hitting us up. All right. Send us a text, 715-830-1912. I don't know what this one texter is saying. Vikings win the World Series. I mean, come on now. What are you talking? Come on now. If you were trying to trash talk a little bit about your Vikings, you just screwed up there, Nick. Our good buddy Nick. So, okay, Brewers, again, you can catch the game today, 4:32, scheduled first pitch. Coverage will begin on the radio dials of 105.1 FM, 790 AM, about 3:55. So if you start to tune in about 3:55 here this morning, or this afternoon, that's when coverage will begin. First pitch again around 4:32. Freddie Peralta will get the start for the Brewers. No big surprise that Freddie's getting the ball for game one. He did pitch against the Mets this year, but you got to go back to opening day to get that line. And Freddie was solid back on March 29th. Man, March 29th. Picked up the first win of the season. He went 6 innings, 1 hit, 1 earned run, giving up that 1 home run. Did issue 8 strikeouts in the game. So Freddie getting the ball. It's been pretty darn solid his last couple outings over there too. On the other side, we've got Severino. Luis Severino is going to get the starts for the Mets. And he also pitched against the Brewers earlier on in that first series of the season back at the end of March. Lately, he's coming off of a loss against the Braves back on the 24th, where he went 4 innings, gave up 7 hits, 4 earned runs. But he's been going up against some playoff teams here. And then before that, he pitched against the Phillies, picked up a win, 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. That was on the 19th, and then on the 14th against the Phillies, no decision, 6 innings, 3 earned runs on 3 hits, 5 strikeouts. But back at that game on March 30th against the Brewers, he got the loss. He went 5 innings, giving up 11 hits, 6 runs, 3 of them earned, with the home run on there too. But if you're looking at kind of recency, 5 games in September, Severino is 2-1 with a 3.64 ERA. One of his best games of the season coming at the beginning of September, where he went up against Boston, 7 innings, 1 earned run on 6 hits. So besides these last 3 that we just went to, he started off September fairly solid, because against Cincinnati, he went 6 2/3, giving up 1 earned run as well. So, but his last 3 starts, maybe there's a little bit of an opportunity there for him. Overall, Severino this year, in 11 games, 10 of them he started, 1-4, 5.15 ERA. We'll have more Brewers talk coming up here. First up, we got some news updates. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Final hour kicking off on this Tuesday morning, the 1st of October. Happy October, everybody. Happy playoff Tuesday. Brewers going to get started off with their playoff run here. Hopefully, if you're a Brewers fan, you're donning a little bit of something Brewers out there just to do a little, go crew go sort of thing out there. I'm rocking the Robin Yount jersey, powder blue today. Might throw on the Yelich jersey tomorrow. So we'll see how it goes here. Otherwise, if they win, I might just have to rock it again until they lose. Kind of be one of those superstitious sort of things out there. But happy Tuesday, everybody. Big thanks for tuning in. If you're just joining us, where have you been? Where have you been? Just getting up, just getting going here? Come on now. Just kidding. We're going to talk with RJ Cardinal here in about 15, 20 minutes. We'll talk some Badgers. Going back to the USC game, RJ was at USC. We'll get his thoughts from watching the game in person. And taking a look ahead to this game against Purdue. Purdue making a assistant coaching change, firing their offensive coordinator, former Packers backup quarterback Graham Harrell. And Graham Harrell was actually, I think, their highest paid assistant coach there too. But offense struggling as of late, so they're making a change ahead of their matchup with the Brewers. So, or with the Badgers, excuse me. So we'll talk with RJ about that coming up here in just a little bit. We're taking your grades for the Packers and their first quarter of the season. First quarter in the books. What do you got? Offense, defense, special teams, A, B, C, D, F. If you want to throw an incomplete on there, I'll let it pass just because it's the first quarter. But give me your quarter grades, all right? Also taking your predictions for this Brewer series and the World Series overall. I would say, now I haven't used my fingers to add it all up and such, but it looks like if I were to count them on my hands, using fingers and toes and all that, it looks like Dodgers and Yankees are probably the most popular picked one from all of you, but Phillies would be a close second. A lot of I'm talking winners here. Had quite a few actually Guardian picks too to go to the World Series. My heart, I want the Yuka World Series. I want Brewers versus the Guardians so we can just run with a bunch of major league quotes. But hopefully the Brewers would be able to win that series. That's what my heart says. My head, I'm going to go very, 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 very generic and go Dodgers, Yankees. If it can't be Brewers, yeah, there's that fan in me that I wouldn't mind seeing Ohtani and Judge in a World Series. It's still kind of weird to say that this is the first time Ohtani's been in the postseason too. First time. Quick message on the video stream there. Join us over there. Big thanks to everybody who's on there too. Facebook or YouTube. Subscribe to that YouTube page. We've got some other stuff going on over there too. Patrick saying, personally, I'm glad we are playing the Mets rather than the Diamondbacks. But Philly or LA will be tough series for the Crew. Maybe it'll be our year. Never know. That's why they play the game, right? Let's run with the Badger basketball phrase that they had. Was it the 2015 season, 2014? What? Make them believe, right? Remember that? Make them believe. Maybe the Brewers can run with that. Wouldn't mind that. Let's catch up on some predictions here. Back to the texting line here. We've got another Luke saying he's picking the Brewers to win this series in 3 games, but falling in the next round. He's going to go with the Phillies taking on the Astros in the World Series, with the Phillies winning it. Another Dodgers and Yankees pick. Got the Yankees winning it. Another Dodgers-Yankees matchup with the Dodgers winning it. From a couple texters over there too. So, all right, keep them coming, baby. Reminder: you can check out the game. You can listen to the game right here on 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Coverage will begin just a few minutes before 4 o'clock. First pitch is about 4:32. 4:32. They're saying. If you go to some place, they just go to the round number 4:30, but the official time is 4:32. Later on today, we'll find out who has made the postseason roster too for the Brewers, and one of those, one of the players is going to be interesting to see is if Sal Frelick is on there. Now, Sal Frelick apparently went through a workout yesterday. Some of the media members who were there were watching him kind of running around, running in the field, running the bases. Apparently, he did say he was good to go, but it's going to come down to coaching staff and training staff after that to see if they want to keep him on that playoff roster. So, what are the odds? Let's go through the latest odds. Who's going to win the World Series? Should I have that up here? So, let's do. Here's from the mothership. Got the Dodgers as a plus 300. The Yankees are a plus 425. This is according to the ESPN betting. Phillies are a plus. So Dodgers are plus 300. Yankees are a plus 425. Philly is a plus 425. Houston's coming in at a plus 800. Then it's Cleveland 10-1, Baltimore 10-1, San Diego 10-1, Atlanta 18-1. Brewers down there at 20-1. The only teams worse than them is Kansas City, Detroit, the Mets. Well, at that point they had the Diamondbacks on there, so that's not happening. So what about, let me take a look at the Athletic here. What do we got here for the Athletic? Show more here. Yeah, they're not that high on the Brewers either. In fact, this is from the Athletic. Dodgers plus 325, Yankees plus 450, Phillies plus 450, Padres plus 825, Houston's plus 900. Man, they're really high on the Padres right now. Baltimore plus 1100, Cleveland plus 1100, Brewers plus 2000, Mets plus 2000, Braves, Kansas City, Detroit. Yes, screw it. Make them believe, right? Make them believe. So what does Vegas Insider have? About same. Yeah. So it seems like the line for the Brewers is either at a plus 1600, plus 1800, or plus 2000, depending on where you go for those lines and such. But Mike saying, I just hope Major League Baseball, who definitely wants a large market team because of the viewing, gives the Brewers a chance and the umpire staff is fair. It would fulfill my life to see the Brewers win the World Series, so I'm picking the Brewers in my heart. And after that, I don't care which billionaire team wins. A couple tweets over here too, saying that they're going with the Brewers to win the series, but Dodgers over Yankees. By the way, wild card. This is from Adam McCulvey just now. Wild card series rosters are due at 10 a.m., so just under 2 hours from now. And as he noted, Sal Frelick said, "Good to go," but it's up to the Brewers to decide on Sal, Brian Hudson, and others. That's a good point too. Brian Hudson coming out of the bullpen. Will he be back? Will they throw him out there without getting a lot of work in? We'll see. But that's a good point too. How's that bullpen going to shape up here? Interesting. So less than 2 hours, we will know that wild card roster. I'm excited for tonight. I'll go back to it. Freddie Peralta. I want to see Freddie Peralta have that game. You know, he's had a few moments throughout his career where, you know, obviously he made an all-star team. His debut is still talked about. Mother's Day, Colorado, 10Ks. Legacies are built. Legacies are born and made when it comes to the postseason. I want to see Freddie Peralta have himself a night tonight. I want to see him on the mound, throwing some darts, throwing some heat, racking up that strikeout number, shutting down the Mets offensive lineup, shutting down Lindor, as a few of you mentioned you're concerned about Lindor. And right, I mean, if it's not Ohtani, if you take Ohtani out of the equation, it might be Francisco Lindor as your National League MVP. But I want to see Freddie Peralta on the mound tonight, just throwing some heat and getting guys out and just in a zone, just in a groove. Like everything's working for Freddie. He's hitting the corners. He's getting a lot of chases, a lot of swings, swing and misses. I'm really hoping for a awesome game for Freddie Peralta tonight, because Freddie Peralta is a guy that a lot of fans, even media members too, kind of like, there was at points in the season like, Freddie, you okay? Because we set the bar so high on him. We set the bar so dang high on Freddie Peralta that if it was just, you know, his performance was not to our expectations. We're like, what's going on with him? Because we anointed him the ace. He was anointed the ace of the staff, opening day starter. Number one, now he's a game one starter in the postseason. And if you look at numbers, it's like, 11-9, 3.68 ERA. Is that number one starting quality? It's not bad. But there was times, especially like May, 5 games, 0-3, 4.08 ERA. June, 6 games. He had a 3-1 record, but he was 4.26 ERA. July, 0-2, 4.10 ERA. And it's like, he'd have some good games, followed up by like, yuck. August, bounced back, awesome. He was awesome. 3-1, 2.89 ERA. And he finishes off September 2-2 with a 3.55 ERA. It's almost like which version of Freddie will we get tonight? I hope he's out there, and I hope he takes in the moment, and I hope he just dominates in the spotlight. It's going to need some offensive help. I'm looking at Willy Adames as a key player in his offensive lineup. Let's see Willy Adames potentially make some more money for him in the offseason. If Willy Adames has himself a postseason run here where he's, offensively getting a bunch of hits, getting on base, as a threat at the plate, that's going to boost up his contract value for the offseason. I want to see Willy Adames be that guy at that plate where you're like, okay, he's up, you're feeling pretty good. I'm excited to see Jackson Chourio in his first postseason. I mean, this kid has not shied away from the spotlight this regular season. Can he carry that same attitude into the postseason where he's just grinning, having fun, smiling? How does he react in a postseason? How does he react in the postseason with that postseason spotlight? Does he press a little bit? The nerves are going to be there, right? Or can he just continue to play like he has been, the last how many months? Can he continue to play like that superstar or that all-star type player that we're going to expect from him for years to come? Rookie year, and you get a taste of the postseason, and you're going to be a focal point for this team for the postseason. I'm excited to see Jackson Chourio play in the postseason. And then, Pat Murphy. Here you go, man. I'm one of them too that thought, okay, this is just a hire that's going to, probably be here for a couple of years and then hand it off to Ricky Weeks. Pat Murphy has easily been one of the best stories in all of Major League Baseball, not just for the Brewers, but all of Major League Baseball. What he has done to this team, the mindset that he's built with this team, the clubhouse that he's built, the connections, the philosophy. I'm excited to see him start his postseason run too as manager for this team. So, there's a lot of storylines to kind of follow along here and get excited about. And I'll tell you what, I hope it is a deep postseason run. I think we talked about it last week. This team feels different. It feels different than the last few years because we had that expectation or that hope of like, okay, it got to a point where like, yeah, cool, we're in the postseason, but now we want to win some games in the postseason. We want to win some series as in the postseason. It's not enough anymore just to get there and compete in it. We want to win. And it was like that as recent as last year too, with the pitching staff. Like, okay, we got this pitching staff here. And then it kind of, I think it derailed the energy and enthusiasm a little bit with the Brandon Woodruff news. But, it was there. We had that same type of mindset. This year it was like, didn't really know what to expect. Exceeded all the expectations in the world. And here they are with 93 wins. With a chance again to hopefully have a deep postseason run. I'm excited. I can't wait. I hope we're talking about the Brewers well into October for a while here now. I don't want to be talking about end of season at the end of this week. I don't want to be doing that. I want to be talking about NLCS matchups by the end of this week that include the Brewers. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll switch gears here for a little bit, but keep your Brewers and World Series predictions coming. Hit me up with a text. We're going to get to RJ Cardinal and talk a little Badgers coming up after these few words.
More at franzandbake.com/Eau Claire or stop by our convenient location today. Franz and Bank and Trust, member FDIC, equal housing lender, NMLS number 1207375.
It's fall in Wisconsin, which also means it's hunting season. And to get ready for hunting season in Wisconsin, it's about time to make a visit to your favorite locally owned and operated gun store, Tilden Gun. Need a new deer rifle? Or are you looking for you or someone's first deer rifle? Or do you just want a new one just because? If you answered yes to all of those, and even if you didn't, go give Sean and Hunter at Tilden Gun a visit. The biggest and best variety and the best prices in the Chippewa Valley, Tilden Gun will help you find the deer rifle you're looking for to help you succeed in the outdoors. Have a specific model and brand in mind? With the awesome customer service you get at Tilden Gun, they will help you find just what you're looking for. They're not going to be a pushy salesperson and try to convince you to buy something that you don't want. But if you're looking for advice or help, they're right there to lend that hand. So stop by their shop at 12427 90th Avenue in Chippewa Falls or visit their website at tildengun.com. Welcome to hunting season, Wisconsin. On behalf of Tilden Gun, be safe, best of luck, and have fun in the great outdoors.
Save big money on everything at Menards. Keep your guns, ammunition, and valuables secure with Sports Afield gun safes. We have multiple sizes available to fit your needs. The spacious interiors are fully carpeted to protect against scratches and include adjustable side shelves to suit your storage. For more great deals.
Save big money at Menards.
Skilled trade workers are the backbone of every community, and also the Army National Guard. Soldiers trained to keep the power flowing, engines running, and in every other trade needed to accomplish the mission. These soldiers are on the fast track to learning skills that can set them up for success at home with companies looking to hire the best. Their resumes are being built through their paid training and part-time service. Find out how you too can learn a trade profession by visiting NationalGuard.com. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
Get ready to save half with half-off deals. It's a great way for you to get goods and services that you will love, and you don't have to pay full price. Start saving this Friday, October 4th, with the Chippewa Valley YMCA single and family memberships and the Courtin House. Be ready with your credit or debit card and get ready to save with this week's half-off deals. For more details and to find out about all the savings, just go to aroundthe715.com.
Well, the fall sports season is in full swing right now. Are you a little banged up or have you suffered an injury that you need to get checked out? Whether you're a high school or college athlete or a weekend warrior still playing the game you love, injuries happen. But just know the team at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine are there to help you get back into the game. You're treated with top-of-the-line care, and they are with you and explaining every step of the process with you so that you know and understand what type of care you're receiving. Hey, start feeling better. Visit cvosm.com to get started.
Youth teams, volunteer coaches, and officials, we want to recognize your passion and your love for sports. Nominate a team or individual today by visiting sportstalk1051.com.
As the old phrase goes, look good, play good. Well, if you're a sports team or a league, listen up. If you need some new jerseys or apparel for your team or league, you don't have to look too far to help because Resonance Branding Company is right in your own backyard. From jerseys, pants, shorts, to other gear you may need to help you perform and look your best on the field and court, Resonance Branding Company will work with you to get just what you need. They'll even help you set up an online store so your fans can purchase some merchandise. Just visit ResonanceBrandingCompany.com to get started. And remember, look good and play good. All right, let's switch gears here for just a little bit and talk some Badgers with Mr. RJ Cardinal. Fresh off his visits to the West Coast, California. When did you make it back, RJ? Was it yesterday, Sunday? Or you were at the game on Sunday too, weren't you?
Yeah, went to SoFi Stadium. Next time the Packers play out there, if you can get tickets. Are they away? Did they play at the Rams?
They are, yes. This weekend they're at the Rams. Yep.
Yeah, so if you have tickets, SoFi Stadium's amazing. It's out in the middle of a not so savory neighborhood, but once you get on the grounds there and near the stadium, it's pretty nice. But had a buddy who thought he knew the metro system and took us through South Central. So we we ended up at a bus stop that was about 4 or 5 city blocks away from where the 92 LA riots started.
Oh, geez.
So that lets you know where we got off on a bus and waited for an hour before the next bus came through, and getting a lot of looks, being probably the only white people in South Central that day. But yeah, it was like SoFi is absolutely an amazing stadium from the way it's built. They have that overhang, but no AC. But the way the stadium's built, there's a constant breeze blowing through there the whole time. So it felt really nice. There were times where if you got in the shade, you probably should have brought a sweatshirt. But yeah, just absolutely an amazing stadium that I highly recommend if you ever just a fan of football and want to go to a game there. Or, the next time the Packers play there, highly suggest going to visit it. Oh, just absolutely amazing experience on Sunday.
Awesome. Good deal. That sounds awesome. So, Saturday, though, Badgers, USC, that game. Were you getting your hopes up there a little bit that the Badgers were going to pull this off, or was there still part of you saying, "Yeah, I'm not quite drinking that Kool-Aid yet"?
There was part of me who was still like, with this team, I don't expect this, but I'm loving what's going on. You give up almost 300 yards of offense, but have, depending on how you want to look at it, 3 turnovers. 2 turnovers created. I'm not really sure how you want to talk about a muffed punt, whether that's a turnover or not, because quite frankly, you still had possession of the ball, so it's not like it was a turnover. But you have an interception, you have a fumble recovery, you're up 21-10. Yeah, almost 300 yards, and you only give up 10 points. That's pretty good. Like, it's kind of like Packer defenses of old, the bend but don't break, and even some Badger defenses have been like that in the past. So that first half, it looked like the team had made a turn on turning up the aggressiveness on both offense and defense, and then you come out in the second half, you go 3 and out, you force them to a 3 and out, but Murphy's Law, every action has a positive or negative reaction, and you had a muffed punch yourself, and from there on, the game was over. That deflated pretty much you'd say the entire stadium, but that whole sideline, and it seemed from that point on, the coaching staff played very conservatively to try to keep a win. Playing not to lose rather than playing to win. And it's something we've talked about all year so far. I think the coaching staff is what's failing this team, because that first half showed this team has the playmakers. When a coaching staff puts them in the right space, they can and will make plays. So, and as I'm looking at it, this coaching staff is just not it. Something needs to change either mid-season or at the end of the season for this team to actually turn a corner.
To kind of maybe piggyback off that, there was quite a few former Badger players. I'm sure you saw it on like Twitter/X there too, kind of talking about, I think a popular one was stop running the ball on or stop going into a shotgun on 3rd and 1, those type of situations. And, and a lot of former players saying, let's get back to some power football over there too. I can't remember another time, RJ, maybe you can, but I mean, there seemed to be a lot of frustration from even Badger alum and former Badger players going on social media watching that second half of that game.
I do know a lot of guys, and maybe not as vocal because the defense was still doing very well when Gary Anderson was there, trying to change things up a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. But still had to revert back to what was, because he couldn't recruit the guys he was actually going for, and ended up doing well because he went back to Wisconsin football in terms of that. But I think a lot of these guys are frustrated. And actually, Zach Heilprin, our sports director, pointed out on Twitter, I'm not sure, he's not the biggest of guys who's going to pile on the shotgun to under center on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1. And he showed a couple of clips of Paul Christ's offense not blocking and getting tackled in the backfield on 3rd and 4th and short, and then posted some from being in shotgun. And, you know, if you don't make a block, and that one clean, nobody touched the guy, and he got in the backfield and made the stop. Now, people say you could be closer if you had a fullback. It's right there, and that guy off the edge isn't coming through, or he is, but he's not there to make a play. But right now, your only fullback on the roster is now a tight end, and I'm not saying he forgot how to play fullback, but you know, it's not in the game plan. And who knows? You go under center and just QB sneak it. That could be a thing, but it is a situation where I see the frustration and probably haven't seen it in the past because there hasn't been a far deviation from the Alvarez era still moving forward up until now. And yeah, absolutely a frustration. Whatever people want to say about the end of Paul Chryst's tenure, I'll just point back and say Barry Alvarez had a run where he missed a bowl game, and that was sandwiched by 2 7-6 seasons. And whether or not his head was getting called for, it wasn't. And people are just like, oh, he'll bounce back. Paul Chryst did not get that opportunity, and there are some players who I think feel he should have been allowed to finish the season. Whether or not you do something at the end of it, I don't know. But there was an opportunity there to keep Paul Chryst and not make him the first head coach fired in season in program history. And whether or not McIntosh wanted to prove a point, maybe he did, and he wanted to show there is a new sheriff in town and things are going to change. Well, right now we're seeing it's not changing for the better. And anybody who wants to say he needs a long time to get his players in here, that's not really the way college football is now. The portal, NIL, all that, it can be taken care of in a quick second. And for a guy who, for the lack of a better term, needs to rely on sayings and all that, I can just go up the river and be near you guys and point out PJ Fleck, who took over a 9-win program and hasn't really done much with it. And Minnesota's got to keep him because, quite frankly, I think they need gimmicks to recruit there. Wisconsin shouldn't. And this coaching staff, the way it's constituted right now, is what's failing this program.
I'm glad you brought up the point about, you know, because that's still something, you know, we hear from people, wait till he gets his class and wait till he gets his recruits in. And I'm glad you brought that up because it is different, right? I mean, in college football with the transfer portal, even, you know, if you bring your guys in, but if they don't play, they're leaving after a year. I mean, we can't use that phrase hardly anymore, right?
No, because, I mean, he's now had 1.5 recruiting cycles plus 2 portal periods. If his players, that's almost, I mean, I'll call it 2.5 classes. Because portal players, I mean, even though they're not technically part of the class, they're part of the class. If you have around 50 guys who are on this roster, and I'm still seeing the quote-unquote poor, bad players that Chryst was recruiting that are playing, what does that say about the guys he's bringing in? Sure, they're higher stars, but if you don't have a coaching staff that can develop that and make them better, what's the point? If his guy, like roughly half of the 2 deep are transfer students. Like, what are we doing here? His guys are here. Mm-hmm. They're on the 2 deep, and we're getting this. Now, is that because they're not good? They're on the 2 deep. They must be good. That goes and leads right back into it's a coaching problem. And if that isn't going to be addressed at the end of the year, one way or another, I think it really seems by the narrative of the media, Longo is going to be the scapegoat here. I really think it needs to be the other guy because I think the handcuffs are on Longo right now for ball possession. And it's not his fault. It's the defensive coordinator's fault, who that was another big one if you were watching on Twitter and all that. Former players. A bastardized version of the 3-3-5 is one I saw from somebody, and I forget who it was. But the defense, sure, like I said, 10 points in the first half. Gave up almost 300 yards. bend but don't break. Then the second half comes around and you give up 28 unanswered. Now, part of that is also outside of a 9-play drive, you had very short possessions in the second half. And it's one of those, you gave up another 200 yards in the second half, 21 points on the offensive side. Then there was a pick six. So you can't throw that one on the defense, but still, if you only gave up 21 points, you still lose 31-21. You didn't do anything in the second half. And that's another one. We've seen it from the coaching staff. It's been admitted in a press conference. If it's not on tape, we didn't plan for it. Like, I don't understand how that's a thing in this day and age.
Right.
Adjustments, especially in-game adjustments, are not a thing this defensive coaching staff especially can do. And we've seen it in 4 games now. You had no right to be losing to Western Michigan in the fourth quarter. You had no right to have a close game against South Dakota. Alabama, will throw an injury in there. Like, throw that one out. Like, everybody wasn't expecting to win anyway. This is a game where against USC, you had a team that was changing defensive coordinators. They had looked better on defense as of late. Their offense at times looked shaky, and we saw that in the first half. Outside of a first drive touchdown that, I went back and watched. I don't think it was a touchdown because he was sliding out of bounds on his back, and that ball was still moving. Like, I don't know why that wasn't challenged, but, whatever. It's a scoring play. It should have been reviewed. It should have been overturned. But once again, I mean, can't do much about that. But it's just, it's frustrating to watch a team where in that first half, you saw we have the players.
Mm-hmm.
And in the second half, you have a coaching staff who still can't make adjustments. And I think it's going to be something we continue to talk about the rest of the year. And I would absolutely hope by the end of the year, I'd much prefer a change of defensive coordinator than offensive coordinator, because Longo does have a record of being able to open things up when he's allowed to. And when you have a coach who is at the podium saying we need to run the ball more, so far in these 4 games, it's been pretty even pass to run. And if you need to run the ball more, you brought in the wrong coach. And if that's what it's going to be, absolutely. Then you have to have a mutual decision to say, I'm sorry, Phil, this isn't going to work out because I thought we'd be running the ball more. And then that's on the head coach. And then that brings that whole thing into question on, did we hire the right head coach?
Right. What was, just to kind of wrap up the USC game, what was your scouting report, your analysis on what you saw from Braden Locke in that game?
It's a tale of two halves. Again, what we saw in the first half, it was aggressive play calling. I mean, we saw a 64-yard touchdown pass. We saw another one to, was it Green who caught a pretty long one to sustain a drive that led to another touchdown? Tyree Walker, 2 touchdowns, an 18-yard run. We haven't had that many long run plays. But that first half, he looked like the kind of quarterback who can lead this team to an offensive explosion. 21 points in the first half. You scored 14 in the second. It's now granted some of that was aided by an interception and a muffed punt, but you know what? You take it as you get it. And we saw 21 points in the first half. How that went away, it looked like USC made some good defensive adjustments. I mean, they started getting more aggressive on things, and it was back to, it's the guy who can only complete 50% and kind of could be a liability on the turnover side of things. And we saw an interception return for a touchdown. So we saw the potential there. Mm-hmm. And once again, whether it was decided, hey, we're playing not to lose, let's make sure we try to run the ball get the clock going, all this kind of stuff. It didn't work, and it led to 28 points in the final half, 14 per quarter. So all this stuff about the winning the fourth quarter and stuff was just a lot of a talk to say we're a new regime. That's what it's been so far this now year and a quarter. So it's getting frustrating. And to all the people out there being like, well, we were expected to be 2-2. Honestly, after that first half, there is no way this team should be 2-2. They should be 3-1, and we should be talking about how the Badgers upset USC at home in their first Big Ten game at home, and why USC is 0-2 going into their next game. But it still comes back to it's the coaching staff, and the coaching staff is failing this team.
Speaking of coaching staff, they're the team that the Badgers will be going up against this weekend. Purdue firing their offensive coordinator, former backup quarterback for the Packers, Graham Harrell, in a shakeup for their offense. So, I mean, you were just talking about Badger defense. Purdue's now going to have a new offensive coordinator, interim offensive coordinator here. I know it's not always the case, but sometimes, RJ, it feels like, oh crap, when teams make that means they have like an explosion in the first game or something like that. So, I mean, how do you view this game? Knowing, I mean, are you expecting Purdue to change a whole lot on offense now that Graham Harrell's not going to be there? Or, I mean, it's the week of the game. How much can they actually change at this point?
Yeah, it does become that. How much can they actually implement in changing things? And let's hope for our coaching staff's sake that they have film on the new interim OC to know what his tendencies are. Because if they don't, it's going to look a lot like Western Michigan. I mean, Purdue is bad, like bad. You throw out their game against Indiana State where they won 49-0. They're averaging 12.7 points per game. That would put them 131st out of 134 nationally. Put them last in the Big Ten. Now, you throw out Wisconsin's game against their FCS opponent, and they're only scoring 19 a game. So it's not like Wisconsin's doing much better. But not only are they bad offensively, defensively, they're giving up 242 yards on the ground. Like, if Wisconsin finally doesn't run more this week, we know there's a larger problem than we even know. They're giving up almost 400 yards of total offense per game. Like, this team is just not a good football team. They have 0 turnovers. They're the only team in college football that hasn't created a turnover on the defense yet. They're allowing 33 points a game. I think that goes up to 44 if you take out their shutout against Indiana State. They're not a very disciplined team either. They're like, depending on how you want to look at it, they're either third to last in penalty yardage, with 92 yards of penalty yardage a game. So, like, if you can't get it on track against Purdue, who I believe you're already up to a 14.5 point favorite, when some places it opened at 10. I saw some places it opened at 12.5, and some places 13.5. So depending on where you're looking at, it already's gone up by 4 points to 1 point, to being, and it's just one of those things. You look at this Wisconsin team, if they come out like they did in the first half of USC, it's going to be a blowout, because this Purdue team is that bad.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's the Wisconsin team, we've seen the aggregate of the entire year, this is going to be a ball game. That might be a 1-score game. And yeah, we'll know Wisconsin has a lot of issues. And I think we already know that. But if this specific game ends up being a tough game, there's not going to be a lot of games moving forward. It might be Wisconsin's last win of the season if this is a tough game.
Really quick before I get to your prediction for this game, I'm sure you saw this too, but there was an article up on ESPN. It said sources Big Ten and the SEC to talk possible scheduling partnership in football. I just kind of wanted, your thoughts, your to that. And I was reading one thing earlier this morning. It said sources in both leagues told ESPN on Monday they would prefer to have potentially 4 automatic bids each to the playoff when the next contract begins in 2026. So am I reading that right, RJ? If it's still 12, you're talking potentially they would want 8 of that 12 to be from the Big Ten in the SEC?
Yeah. And I think it's turning into one of those. I mean, this is the Super League. And I don't think they'll probably get to 20 teams each. So, and I don't think they're kicking anybody out. The Big Ten I think they kicked out Michigan back in the day, but that's because Michigan was bringing in pro players to play for them in games. And that was in the early 1900s, and they didn't come back until the 1920s. Other than that, I don't think a member has been kicked out. Chicago left because their new president at the time didn't believe in athletics. But they brought football back eventually, and they're a D3 school now, I think. So nobody's ever been kicked out of the Big Ten. And I don't think anybody's ever been kicked out of the SEC. I know Clemson left. No, who left? Tulane left. Swanee left. And a big team left. I don't remember who it was, but maybe was it Clemson? Was Clemson in and they left? I don't remember, but no, Georgia Tech left. Georgia Tech left and joined the ACC eventually. But I don't think they're looking to kick teams out. They're looking to bring in a couple more teams each, and that might be your 40-team super conference, if you will. And now with this scheduling partnership, I don't know if it's going to be Big Ten and the SEC are going to do matchups like 1 non-conference game a year, 2 non-conference games a year. But I mean, when you put, I guess essentially it's going to be the Power 2 moving forward. It's the only teams who aren't looking at teams that are looking over their shoulder trying to find greener pastures are these 2 conferences. And it does seem we're moving towards that super conference, and it's not going to be a super conference of, hey, these select teams are going to leave and we're going to bring in others. It's here's our 18 teams, here's our 16 teams. We're going to add 4, we're going to add 2. There's 40 teams that are going to be vying for 4 spots each. Well, I guess 20 and 20 vying for 4 spots each. And the other 4 are left for you other leagues. And who knows, maybe in 2026 it'll expand to 16 and we'll get something a little closer to every other division of football and how they run things. But I mean, that would probably then eliminate the bowl system, which is very lucrative to a lot of quote unquote nonprofits and communities in the U.S. But yeah, it's a step closer to something. I think the rumors of a super conference where it'll be 2 conferences that are essentially ruling college football.
Mm-hmm. All right, RJ, prediction time. What you got for this weekend?
Well, kind of going by the 14.5 that it is now. I will say I don't think Wisconsin will cover, but I think we can say, they'll get to 14, but not to 15 or more. And I'll go 28-14 Wisconsin. Even though, like I said, Purdue's given up almost 44 points a game right now. I can't trust a team who you take away your FCS opponent. And I think that was only 27 points. So even taking that out, and I mean, it's not changing that too much. When against FBS opponents, you're putting up almost just under 20. I think it's 19.6 or 7, something like that. You can't really rely on this offense. And I think in your wins, you're averaging 27.5 points. I'll put us at 28. And somehow Purdue will score above their average against FBS opponents and put up 14 instead of just 12.7. So no cover as of right now. I really do feel that it'll probably only get higher as people see the betting line and keep going into Purdue's stats. But yeah, right now I got to go no cover at 14, missing the 14.5, 28-14 Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff as always, bud. Appreciate it as always, man. Glad you're back. Glad you're back though too. So glad you had a good time over there.
Made it out of the South Central alive, so I got a story to tell.
Nice. Well, you have a good week, buddy, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Okay, sir.
Sounds good. We will talk to you later.
You got it. RJ Cardinal. Good stuff as always from our guy over there. We'll take a quick break and wrap up things with some picks and predicts coming up after these quick words. Time to wrap up things on this Tuesday morning, playoff Tuesday, first day of October. Let's do some picks and predicts. Brought to you by the Elbow Room, located in Eau Claire. Looking for somewhere to watch some of these games, to hang out with some good peeps while enjoying some beverages. Head on over to the Elbow Room, right next to the Banbury Place here in Eau Claire. Don't forget to make your Pro Football Weekly Pick'em picks. Head to our website, sportstalk1051.com, and click on the Fan Cave tab. Scroll down to the bottom, sign in, make your picks. If you've been doing that, you already know the drill, as we'll have Thursday Night Football coming up in just a couple of days from now. But we're doing some baseball picks here today with wild card games. First up today is going to be Detroit taking on Houston. I'm going to go Houston in this one, but then I think Detroit wins the next two. That kind of makes sense. I'm going to go Houston. Then we're going to go Kansas City, Baltimore. I'm going to go Baltimore. We're going to go, we'll skip this one, Atlanta, Padres. I'm going to go with the Padres. Mets, Brewers. Brewers get the win. So give me Houston. Give me Baltimore. Give me pretty much all, the home teams. Yeah, Houston, Baltimore, Milwaukee, San Diego. Those are the four I'm going to go with here for my picks and predicts. Picks and predicts, again, brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Big thanks for all of you for chiming in, whether it was for Pete Rose, whether it was your Brewer picks, your playoff picks, World Series, Badger Packer stuff, all that good stuff. A big tip of the cap to all of you who texted in, tweeted in, comment on the video stream, whatever the case may be. So big thanks for that. We should know, by the way, in under an hour, about an hour, around 10 a.m. is the deadline for the wild card rosters for the Brewers. So big one on there that we're going to be paying attention to is going to be whether Sal Frelick did enough to make that team in his workout yesterday to make the roster, as he's got that bone bruise on his hip. So we'll see. But that should be coming up at about 10 o'clock. So hopefully tomorrow morning, as we're making a turn on the week, we're talking about a Game 1 win, and we're talking about a Game 2, previewing a Game 2, where we're on the verge of advancing to the National League Divisional Series. So fingers crossed. Go Brew Crew. Again, reminder, you can check out the game by tuning in to the radio dials, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Coverage will begin at 3:55. First pitch around 4:32. Playoff euchre, baby. Nothing better. Have a good rest of your Tuesday. DP and the Danettes are up next. I'll see you. Talk to you all tomorrow morning, just past 6.